Hey, this is Sanyam Bhutani, and you're listening to Chai Time Data Science, a podcast for data science enthusiasts where I interview practitioners, researchers, and Kagglers about their journey, experience, and talk all things about data science. Hello and welcome to Quarantine Content with Fast.ai family, with Fast.ai heroes, the CTDS.Show. In this episode, I'm joined by two of my mentors, two of my peers from the Fast.ai family, Jose Fernandez Portal and Francisco Ingham, both of whom are currently on the machine learning teams at Mercado Libre, and specifically the deep learning teams. This episode is a lot about making a transition into the field via Fast.ai, learning via Fast.ai, and how to foster a community similar to Fast.ai in your physical location, the importance of this. Jose and Francisco both have taken the course, have shared a similar journey, and share a lot of interesting advices along these lines on how you should approach the material, take the most out of it, how should you plan your time around it, and how should you find the projects. So if these sound interesting to you, without further ado, here's the conversation. Please enjoy the show. Hi everyone, I am joined by two of my peers. I would say they're my peers, but really they're my mentors and my heroes from the Fast.ai community, Francisco Ingram and Jose Fernandez Portal. Thank you so much both for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Could you please introduce yourselves by your name as well for the audience that's tuning in via the audio?
Okay, I am Francisco Ingham. I am a machine learning developer from Argentina. Do you want me to tell about my background?
We'll dive into that. I just want to let the audience know who's listening to.
Perfect.
Okay, and I'm Jose Fernandez Portal from Argentina also. I'm a machine learning developer as well.
I'll be talking all about your background, but I want to start by talking about your journey into the field. Francisco, you were a management consultant before changing your field into machine learning, and Jose, you had a computer science and business background. Why did you decide to pick up AI first? AI broadly speaking, or machine learning specifically?
In my case, I was always curious about programming since I first encountered it in university. I had never been exposed to that in high school, which I think is very bad on the high school education. I think we should all have exposure to programming, and because it's an art. And I think once you have some exposure, if you have a good teacher, you either love it or hate it. So it's nice to know, you know. The first time I did an online course, which was EDX CS50, I was absolutely in love with that. I didn't find any way of making that a lifestyle, but I knew there was something there. This was my third year university. When I finished university, I applied to management consulting because I was not really sure what I wanted, like what I wanted to do could align with what I could do, because I didn't have many actual skills. So I applied to management consulting because I thought it would give me like a big window to find a place where I could become competent and acquire skills, since I was not very sure of what I wanted to do. And during that year, I knew I liked analytics, so I asked to be put in all analytics projects, even if I was a generalist. I was not a coder at all. I was doing PowerPoint presentations, but I was very close, and I could have lunch with the data scientists that came from other parts of the world, and I was trying to absorb as much as I could. And one day, a friend of mine, he told me about Fast.ai. I was doing Coursera. I even did a Caltech learning from data course, which was really theoretical. I went to my local university and I actually enrolled in courses as an external student, which I was the only person that did it. I was like a madman. People were saying like, why are you in summer like doing these courses if you don't even study this? Like you don't even need this for the title. And I was doing like crazy subjects like logics and numerical methods, but I was really, really curious about the computing world in general. And eventually, when this friend introduced me to Fast.ai, I just knew this was the real deal. I knew it firsthand. Like, I read about the teaching philosophy, and I said, like, this is what's been wrong in what I saw wrong in education. Like, this is how it should be done. Top down, get straight to building, even if it's basic, and then learn as you go. I fell in love with that, absolutely. So I had like this difficult situation in which I went to San Francisco because I was an international student for Fast.ai, so I could take the course online. I met some great people. I met Jeremy, I met Rachel, and at that point I was like, it was very hard for me to pick the jump because I needed to either decide like this is what I'm going to do and get down to it, or continue my traditional path. But I thought like going through the company, like getting into programming in R and doing like the official way was going to be like too cumbersome and slow. I thought that's what I thought at the time. So I decided to leave and like go for it. Like I was 23 years old and I said, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. And it was just, the decision was based on basic interest. I was like fascinated by the way neural networks work and how you can be in constant learning about new things and applying new things and the creativity at your touch at your fingertips, you know. So I knew I loved it. I just needed to find a way. I didn't do it the most neat way, but I knew I needed to do it. And yeah, that's why I left my consulting job, because I fell in love with this world and with this skill of machine learning developing.
So the cool version of your story is you found your interest for AI, machine learning. You quit your job and you went to San Francisco to take the course in a span of few days.
Yes, that's the story. That's true. The way that happened was I really didn't know where to start. I knew I had to start with Fast.ai. I knew I had to get deep in the course, start getting into the forum, start doing projects there. And something that was key in my journey and that I always thought was the most important thing was the community. I needed like-minded people to help me build and to build together, because I am not a lonesome wolf. I love being with people, and I love being with like-minded people that I can share my interest with. And I didn't know anyone in Argentina that had this passion for machine learning or deep learning. I didn't know it even existed. I thought like you know, people that love these things, they went abroad and worked abroad. So since I didn't know anyone who worked in this in Argentina, I knew people in San Francisco because I had gone there in my holidays, and I started collaborating online and doing some contributions, and I got the invitation to hey, if you want to come, like it's here, you can work with us, like we're not going to pay you or anything, but you can come and collaborate from here since you're already doing it on a daily basis. And to me, that was a great opportunity to be close to the deep learning community. And I did it because of that. It might seem like a very long jump, and it was, but I didn't see any other option at the time. So I am very grateful of having been given that opportunity, because it was the great stepping stone to be able to make a lifestyle of this passion I have.
That's amazing. We'll definitely talk more about that. But Jose, I'd love to hear your story as well. You were already experienced in the field. You had a few years, I believe, of experience, and you wanted to explore other options. What led you to trying out machine learning, and what was your journey there?
Okay, my background is in computer science. Actually, I have a degree in system engineering. I also complete most of an MBA. And I spent around 10 years working in technology companies, but more related with sales and business development. Actually, I've been living abroad in Chile for about 6 years. I was first general manager of a local branch of a mid-sized company. Then I partnered with friends that they were working with development of mobile solutions. So I've been working, as I mentioned, mainly on the sales side and delivery of technology projects. But after some years, I get bored about what I was doing. I wanted to get back to the technical track that it was what I love, to create new things. So I decided to make a big jump. And first I take the decision to get back to the technology track, but I didn't know what to do. So I started making a research about the different trendy technologies that you heard, but you didn't know what they are, like blockchains, machine learning, big data, IoT, terms that I didn't know exactly what they were. So I started making a small research, and when I learned something about machine learning, I decided that it was what I wanted to do. I got really excited. So I quit my job. I decided to get back to my country and to spend around a year to learn about it. So what I did is during this year, to be a full-time student. I made several mocks. At the end, I find Fast.ai, and that was life-changing for me. It was really different to the other mocks that I had completed previously. Because mainly, as Francisco mentioned, because of the community, the support that you get there, and especially because of you get this top-down approach and really hand-on experience that with previous courses, I felt that I managed to pass the exercise and understand everything, but you are not able to build something by yourself. And with Fast.ai, it's really hand-on. You have to start from scratch, and it's also good that you don't have grades or you don't need to pass exams. It's a commitment with you that you have to do if you want, if you have the motivation. But if you have the motivation to do it, it's even much more powerful. And after that, I felt like empowered to complete project by myself. And I decided that I wanted to continue working in that field.
That's amazing. So I also want to ask, both of you had one of the fastest transitions, if I may, into the field. And I remember both of you would very strictly plan how you wanted to make a transition. Francisco, you had these Trello boards that you would maintain. And even otherwise, in our conversations, I realized both of you had a very disciplined approach towards making this goal a reality. So can you speak to that? How did you plan this transition, and how did you follow the disciplined approach? Because when you're passionate about something and you become a full-time student, then you can go in all different directions. But I know you had a strict policy about your goals and your priorities.
Yeah, that's very kind on you. I didn't feel that way at all. I felt it was very disorganized, and now that I have a real job, like, it has helped me a lot in how to actually make take prioritization decisions, and like actually leave things to die so other things may live. And you know, my whole objective was to become a proficient deep learning engineer, even in small environments such as computer vision or NLP. So I just wanted to get like really deep onto what was the state of the art in both those technologies. And I think I was disciplined on the hours. Like, I never slacked And I was like, every day I woke up, I started coding, and then at some point I did some sports, and then I went to sleep, and then I started again. I didn't, I think, have like a clear, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year plan on how to make it happen. So at some points I was like working more on documenting the Fast.ai library and learning about its inner workings. Then I did a tool for the Fast.ai library, which was a similarity finder for cleaning data sets, which made me work with embeddings and get familiar with embeddings. And I was always like trying to end one project, trying to actually finish it and leave it as a consistent whole and not leave it halfway. And since I was in the forums and meeting people, I was always like having like a new project to start, which I found interesting. So I did one Kaggle competition, I did one Fast.ai feature, I documented many notebooks and made some tutorials. I did one crazy project which didn't work out, which was like something I could write a Medium post on, a voice synthesizer. But what I really focused on was never slacking on the work and also trying to finish something, because if you just want to show off, like you can always, implement something which is like halfway done and you can do it, and then you don't do the plumbing, right? You do not do the real stuff that is needed for that to be useful. And I tried as much as I could to do things and finish them. And if they didn't work, then like I would write a blog post on why they didn't work, or just give closure to projects, because it's very tempting when you're on your own, since you have nobody to deliver to not deliver basically. And that's, I think, was my KPI. I'm sorry if I'm disappointing you, but I didn't have any consistent, narrative that I was following. I was just learning as I went and trying to do the most valuable thing I thought was beyond my reach at the moment.
I guess your approach to these projects was very organized. At least to me, I follow a very chaotic, unorganized approach. Jose, I know you had a very similar approach as well. Can you share your side of the story?
Yeah, in my case, it was very similar to Francisco. It was not so planned, the step to follow. But
it's more planned compared to non-management people, I would say. It may not appear planned to you guys.
Yeah, maybe it was not a micromanagement plan. It was like a medium-sized plan that I wanted, or I knew that I had some time to spend on learning. So when you quit your job and you are not earning money, you also feel that pressure that you are running out of money and time. So that this is something that put responsibility on you, that you have to learn every day in order to be ready to go to the market after a few months. So I used to show in that way that every day was important. I didn't want to miss a day without doing nothing. So that's basically the motivation, that you feel bad if you're not working and you are not studying, you're not following a plan. So it was simple as that for me.
How do you suggest so people who aren't under other pressures, or students generally feel they have enough time, they don't feel a pressure? Do you have any advice for them? How should they create an external or internal pressure like this?
I think it's not about creating pressure. I think it's also something that I didn't mention, is motivation. That in our case, we leave our jobs because we wanted to do something different, something we love. And when you find it, you don't need to push yourself. It's like something you want to do. You want to learn about it, to do exciting things, create new things. And I think that's the point. If you reach, maybe it sounds like a cliche, but if you find something you really like, it's much more easy.
Yes, I agree. One thing I like to do is instead of finding positive things that energizers, I try to remove de-energizers. So that means like if you are not working officially and you have free time and you want to spend it productively, you have to say no to almost everything. And that means like friends who say like, come on, man, you don't even have a job. How come you don't have 1 hour to go to a bar with me and some friends? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't have a job. Exactly. Like I am working towards something even more difficult than having like a job and knowing that you have that is your least your floor, like we say in Argentina. So what I was saying about like having like a specific work time in which you try not to get distracted and you block other apps and you block your cell phone and you whatever project you're on, that must be your priority and you need to like cut out all distractions. That doesn't mean I am not an advocate of working 14 hours a day, but I do think that when you are working, you need to cut off any distractions, and that time must be sacred. And that's the only defense you have against like the modern invasions into your attention span.
Truly. I think Jose also mentioned an important point, which is that learning doesn't end when you get a job. That's where it starts. So that's where you actually start getting paid to learn in a way. But many people think that if I learn this, I can finally do a job. But it doesn't end there. You have to also keep learning while you're trying to build products or build software products. Okay, so I also want to maybe Jose, you can start by talking about this. I know the scene in Argentina for machine learning isn't that big. How did you find like-minded people or any people in the community? And I think you had taken the course online. So how was that journey for you? I'm talking about Fast.ai.
You mean specific about Fast.ai or in general?
Fast.ai and machine learning broadly, but I think you've taken the course online, Fast.ai. So Francisco had taken it in person, so that he might have a different story.
Yeah, I completed some mocks by myself, and then I ran into Fast.ai, and it was a really different experience because of what I mentioned before about the hands-on experience and the community. And actually, I took the course twice. The first time, I think it was version 2 that it was already completed by then. So I made it after it finished. And the second time I made it online, so interacting with the community after every lesson. And this was a very different experience, interacting with all the community and everyone sharing me, answering the questions, and that's something incredible. Apart from that, by that time I was like really alone doing machine learning. I didn't have even a friend that was working on the field. I remember going to a conference in Cordoba, in my city, and I didn't knew no one there, and it was the first opportunity to interact with other people on the field, working with in the same field. And from that point, I started the interviews, and after that, I get the job.
How did you interact? How did you find that interaction with the community? Because many people think you need physically, you need to be close to, let's say, study partners. But Fast.ai also is great at creating this online community. Do you think that had a huge role for you as well in your journey?
Yeah, definitely. You get a lot of support from your virtual partners that feel in some way the lack of physical partner close to that, and I think it's a really good option to help you and motivate you to interact with all that community.
Okay, and Francisco, I know you had the opportunity to take the course in person. Can you also speak to how did you find the study groups there? How did you partner up with people? And many people overlook this, but the importance of that in your journey.
Yes, just let me say something before, which I think is important and what I have found in my journey. I think Fast.ai is like a stepping stone to getting into the community. And then I think what Fast.ai would love, I want to put words on Fast.ai as a community, but I think what would be great for Fast.ai is if people could bring that knowledge and that, that training they've gotten from the online community to their hometowns. And that's somehow what you're doing and what we are doing. I think, we shouldn't be stuck on online communities. We should try to build local communities and make, bring a seed from Fast.ai and plant it locally. That's somehow how I like to.
Why is that important according to you? Many people don't even think about it, but why is that important?
I think there is definitely for most of people a cultural aspect in learning. I think it's much easier to learn with physical, culturally similar people, especially because it removes a lot of barriers. Like Fast.ai, you need to want to do machine learning, you need to know what it is, you need to get into the course, you need to be highly self-motivated. And many people just, are in the universities and they need to get they need to hear the word and have like a more structure in their learning. And I think I like that too. Like I didn't have that, but that doesn't mean I think it's a bad thing. I think it's great, and I would love to have had it in my university, or now I have it in my job, and it's fantastic. I am a much better professional with a group of people with whom I can build consistently, not just for one project, but across 1, 2, 3 years or even more. So, and I think we humans, at least in Argentina and how culture works, we need human contact. We need eye-to-eye conversations. We have evolved learning this way. So I think we can harness that into our favor. But for that, we need to build some roots where we live and across our hometowns. That's in some way I like to see whatever we learn in Fast.ai to become like a beautiful tree that Fast.ai gave us the opportunity to grow. So with that optic, when I went to San Francisco, I was very excited, obviously. It was the second time I was there. The first time was in my holidays when I was still working in management consulting. When I was an international student, I went 2 weeks. That was the first time, and I brought all the parts for my deep learning server, which we can talk about later. But the second time I went, I was already contributing with the notebooks and documenting the library, and the Fast.ai version 2 library was on. So I was trying to help with that because I thought it was a great way to learn. And I got this invitation, informal invitation, but I was very grateful to have it. So I took a flight and I went. I didn't know how long I would stay. I was on a holiday visa, and I stayed about 3 months. During that time, I met a lot of great people, people who I still have contact today, with whom I did some projects within the Fast.ai group, and also we did some social activities, like we went training together, and it's important to have people with whom to live, because if not, it's quite lonely. So it was great to have like-minded students who were like having the same objectives as me, and who all had different backgrounds, and they all had this like consistent theme of they came from another place that was not strictly machine learning, and they were trying to get into the community. So they all had this unique skill. One was a software developer, another one was just out of high school, and they all had this mix of skills, which was to me super enriching. And so yeah, I stayed there. I helped with the course. I helped with the library as much as I could with the skills I had. And I did some projects such as the ones I told you, and there's more on my blog of what I did there. But my takeaways were definitely having some time with Jeremy and Rachel was to me it was everything, because they were people that were very important in the deep learning community, and they in some way they validated the fact that I didn't need a computer science major to be a professional. And they saw in me the potential to learn and not the background that conditioned me for my whole lifetime. So that kind of point of view that I received from them, and the talks I had with them, and the exposure I had to real deep learning problems and research and stuff, even if I was not like a fully developed professional to really take advantage of all the information there, to me it was like the last drop of validation I needed to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to work until I find a place where I can, start to build things consistently. And yeah, I learned a lot from them. I have a lot on my blog post, but Jeremy, especially when he codes, he used to show it on a big screen. So I learned about the tools he uses, Tmax, the shortcuts, Vim, definitely close to the research he was doing, and trying to help and maybe give a little bit of something I could do to add to that research, even if it was not revolutionary. And all that exposure gave me some tools to then attack an interview and have some substance to show. This is what I know how to do. Even if it's not much, I can use a notebook quite proficiently. I can run a model. I can analyze the modeler's errors. I can try to change the data set. That constant iteration on solving a data science problem, but especially related to deep learning, gave me the tools to get my first job. So Fast.ai is for free, and that experience to me was I can't pin a value to it. It was life-changing, probably. I don't know how my life will develop in the next years, but if I continue in this industry, it's the biggest investment I probably made in education in my life. And it was free. So it was time and the travel, but from them to me, they gave me the best education for free, and I can never repay that, I think. So I think the way I try to give back is building within the home community and trying to spread the word, basically.
We all I like to call it a Fast.ai family. At least all of us would agree on that. How do you both think? So there's two aspects to building a community. You have to start it, but after that you need to be consistent. Many people fall into the loop of just keeping it very beginner level, which is very easy for anyone to talk about once they have gone through that. But that's not very retentive, and that doesn't involve a lot of growth for the local community. Do you have any thoughts on that? Any suggestions for people that are looking to build local communities?
Yes, definitely. If you have a story to tell, something you did which is interesting to others, maybe you can do a talk in a meetup. You can build local study groups for Fast.ai courses. And also, I think joining a company, like if in a company they are doing good work with a good group, that helps, because you will be increasing the machine learning capacity of your town or your country, and that brings a lot of benefits, especially if the company is immersed into the community. Like companies can sponsor events, companies can throw events, companies can train people that come out of university, and all that to me is part of the good work one can do to build community. So I wouldn't be close to joining a good group. And if you don't have that opportunity, you can definitely help a lot just by building a study group and helping other people solve problems that you solved a few months ago, basically.
Jose, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to mention an example, last year in the company that we are working on, we organized a machine learning challenge for the community. It was an NLP challenge. And for instance, in that context, Francisco organized, it was a kind of meetup that he showed how to build a baseline for that competition using Fast.ai. So everyone can go into the competition using that baseline. And that was a way of, on the one hand, that people can get into the competition. Anyone can build an acceptable model to participate in the competition, but also to promote in some way accessibility to AI through Fast.ai.
Okay. I also want to talk about your journey with Fast.ai, because Fast.ai is this top-down course, and it's a unique experience because there are no courses like that. So how did you learn through it? How did you approach the materials, and how did you find the project ideas while going through the course?
Okay, in my case, at the beginning, it was kind of weird. I was, the mocks that I made before were the bottom up. And at the beginning, it was like something that I felt kind of loose. But after that, when you start getting, you understand the logic, you feel very empowered that you can build real things, and this gives you a lot of power that you can really build things. With the other approach, you feel that you know the building blocks, but it's near impossible for you to put all the pieces together to build something. So this is my first impression. And after that, seeing in perspective, I think it's definitely the best approach. And in my experience, what also happened was, I told you that I made a Fast.ai course twice. So the first time I learned the basic, and the second time that I made it, I take the opportunity to give an extra mile. So in every lesson, not just to complete assignment, but get inside into the library and to implement something different, or implement some functions by myself to really understand what was going on under the hood. And I think it was really valuable for me to not just being able to create models, train models, but to really understand, and in order to be able to tweak and to make personalization to the models, etc. That was really a good experience for me. So first going top down, and then you get really into the details to understand what is going on.
And how do you discover these ideas? Because you also created a simple project which was, if I may call it simple, that was the SGD animation. But you also built complex projects after that. How do you find those ideas, and when do you say that it's finished? Because I think both of you do the complete plumbing as well, as Francisco had mentioned. When do you think a project is complete?
Yeah, that one was something that is an example of what I just told you, that in the second time that I was doing the course, in one of the lessons, Jeremy made that animation about how a model trained, and it was a line that was fitting the point. So I recreate that, and I wanted to give an extra mile, and I thought about, okay, and what is going on with the loss? So I tried to plot it, and I got excited that night, and it was a long night of work, and I completed and just posted and received a really good response.
And but also projects after that, I think you built an interesting intersection of tabular and NLP based project the same year.
Yeah, actually, I had a problem that when I was interviewing for my actual job, they sent me a problem to solve that involved the data set involved tabular data as well as text. So I solved using only tabular information, and then I started asking, okay, how can I mix both things? I want to include also the text. So I came to that idea to take the test, use ULM feed and the tabular, and then mix embeddings and train everything. Actually, the first thing that I did, because at the beginning I thought it was very complicated, so I trained the tabular model and then a separate model with the text. And the prediction from the text, it was a feature. It became a feature of the tabular model. And I posted, and Jeremy replied, "I would love to see it working together." Okay, if Jeremy is happy, I put myself to work. Because I just mentioned the idea, I would love to mix both models, but and Jeremy replied there, and okay, I start working on that.
Interesting. Francisco, I know you had different experience since you attended the course in person, but how did you approach the materials and how did you find those projects? You have shared these in your blog article. I'll have that link, but still, if you could share the background story behind it.
Yeah. I did many things that were one thing I did consistently was during the version 2, part 1, I was in the forums during the course answering questions. So that definitely forced me to have an understanding of the basics, because if not, I wouldn't be able to answer the question, and I would realize and I would say like, hey, like this is actually a good question. What's going on? And I would try to find out. There, the definition of done is very, very easy. Either you answer it or not. When I was documenting the library, I was just doing notebooks, and I was making sure notebooks had the most I could give, and there was nothing I would change, and then I pushed them. Then I did this. Well, other projects I did this contribution to the library, which is a similarity finder, which not only did I have to do it and finish it and check if it worked well, but I needed to optimize it a bit and also maintain it. Like people were saying, oh, it doesn't work here, whatever. So trying to make it actually work. I actually had to integrate it with another widget, which another friend of mine did, which was the image relabeler, the image cleaner, which was a different widget for a similar objective of cleaning the dataset, but what they did were different, so they had to be complementary and they had to be joined in the same class. So all that helped me to understand object-oriented programming, and which I didn't have any experience with. And I remember the question. The question is the definition of done. How
yes.
did I decide something?
After you complete a project, when is it done? Because you both of you focus a lot on the plumbing as well, which many people but when is it concluded?
I think it is concluded when, one way of saying it is if you wouldn't change anything. You can always do something more, but it's self-contained and it works and it serves its purpose and it doesn't have like any strong missing point that might put its use in hack in I don't know how you say it in English, but it might deter its use. But it really depends on what you're doing. Like if you're writing a blog post, you try to explain it as good as you can, for example, for a paper, and then someone comments something and he says like, okay, I understood what you said here, but what did you say here? And then you either like say, okay, I think you are not understanding what I wrote. I need to change it because it's not clear. Or you say, I think it is clear, but it's just like you need some more background. But what my feeling is always like, is it useful to someone who has the objective the tool or the blog post or the information was made for, and does it serve its purpose, or is it missing some key feature which a lot of people are going to miss when they use it? That was like my intuition when I was building or writing something.
another interesting aspect in anyone's journey in deep learning is when they decide to buy a graphic card. When was that point for both of you, and why did you decide to spend so much money on gaming hardware?
That is an interesting story. In my case, the first time I went to San Francisco, I had read, and in that moment, I think it was like recommended to have your own deep learning server because I think all the online options were either too expensive or hard to use. So it gave you a lot of autonomy, and especially if you were like full-time deep learning, it made sense. But to be honest, I didn't like the decision to leave my job. It wasn't an economic decision. I didn't think about how much money I could earn or how much money I could save by taking this path. It was just out of passion. Like I had worked for that money. I used my own money. It was very, very hard to buy things because in Argentina, we earn in a very devaluated currency. So every dollar was like a bloodshed. But still, you know, like why do you earn money if it's not to actually buy things you love and you will care for? So I bought it, I built it. The story is quite fun. I might delve into that later, but I bought it and I thought like, okay, I'm doing this for good. I will spend in this community and doing these kinds of things at least a few years. So this is a proof of my commitment in some way, and it's like a proof of work. Like, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to buy all the parts. I'm going to learn about all the parts because I didn't know anything about computers, and I'm going to build it. And I will have that like as a first most investment into my deep learning journey. And it was like an emotional thing. It was not a rational thing. I don't know if you want to talk about how I brought all these parts because it's quite a funny story.
We can talk about that later, but I'm also curious about Jose's journey. Why did you decide to invest into it? I think, Francisco, you had mentioned on the forums you wanted skin in the game, which is why you bought the hardware. Jose, was that the case for you as well?
Yeah, in my case, I agree with Francisco. And in my case also, I started using, I thought it was AWS. And when I started getting the bills from AWS of using GPUs, start to being expensive. So if you make a rational decision, probably it's cheaper to use CPU on the cloud. But the point is that you start trying to rationalize the use, so you don't make a lot of don't try a lot of things. Yeah, so you really focus on do something and switch it off to stop spending money. And if you buy a CPU, it's like a sunk cost. You already spend money and you forget it, and you can spend all the day trying, tweaking, and doing a lot of experimentation. And that's in my case, was a really good decision. And on top of that, we are doing something that we really like, and is to earn our life also. So you can see that you are spending money on a hobby, and it's much better even because it will eventually get profitable. So there's a lot of reason to do it if you really like and you enjoy what you are doing.
Certainly. Now I also want to transition into the things that you are enjoying doing in your life right now. You both are working at Mercado Libre. I hope I got that right. Can you tell us more about the company and what tasks are you working on non-pandemic days? How does your tasks or workload look like?
Okay. Yeah, we are both working in Mercado Libre. For those who are not from Latin America, this is the largest marketplace and payment platform in Latin America. And also it's the largest technology company in the region. Mercado Libre is basically the marketplace, but it's also an ecosystem. There's an ecosystem around the marketplace offering the logistic to deliver the package from the marketplace, from the seller to the buyers, and also the paying solution allowing everyone to pay and receive payments, because in Latin America we have a lot of financial inclusion issues. So everybody in Latin America can use a Mercado Libre solution to receive payment, to make payments, and also having all that information about the things that you are buying, the things that you are selling, the payment you are doing and receiving. We use also that information, your behavior, to score and offer even loans to sellers and customers. So we have a lot of divisions inside the company. It's a lot of opportunity for machine learning. Marketplace, logistics, financial services. So there's a lot of needs of machine learning solutions. And basically, we are working in our area is called Applied Machine Learning, that is focused on 4 areas of work. Project delivery, that basically we try to deliver MVP projects in a time frame of 1 quarter. In Mercado Libre, you have very consolidated areas of machine learning for, let's say, fraud prevention or recommendation, etc. But all the time are new requirements coming up. So our team try to deliver, let's say, using the 80-20 rule, 20% of the effort, try to deliver 80% of the value. In 1 quarter, try to deliver an MVP to solve the problem, and then in order, then it's taken by another team that continue the development and the maintenance. So this is one of the areas of work that basically for Francisco and me, we are assigned to working on that, and most of the time are spent on that. We also work on talent development inside the company, and we have different initiatives. For instance, we have a talk about machine learning for decision makers, that basically we provide managers and not technical people within the company. We teach them what is machine learning in a not technical way, with a lot of focus on detecting opportunities when machine learning is a good tool to solve their problems. In order, we don't want in the company to have a technology push that we are doing machine learning and trying to push machine learning everywhere, but the other way around, that people on the business side, on the product side, are aware of when machine learning is a tool for them. So that they bring to us, that they understand when they have a problem that can be solved with machine learning, and they came to us in order we can help them. In that line with talent development, we also have a weekly talks about machine learning, that different areas of the company present every week what they are doing, and we also have invited external speakers. So we are trying to create or trying that everyone within Mercado Libre has a tool to assess when machine learning is a valid tool for them, and have the resources to access to machine learning assets or teams or information. The area also works on what we call productive innovation, basically provide assets to other teams to leverage on machine learning. For instance, now the team, we're not personally involved in this project exactly, but the team is working along with other teams on a feature store that basically in Mercado Libre we have a common entities like listing, sellers, buyers, that every team doing machine learning works with that entities. So in order, they don't need to build the features every time for every project, but we have a repository with the features about listings, about sellers, buyers, etc. So to do machine learning, you can leverage on that and build a model with the pre-trained features. And finally, the last area of work is to create a synergy with the community. We're trying to be a central actor in every city where Mercado Libre has offices in Latin America, with the community. So we interact through local events, meetups. As I mentioned, last year we created a machine learning challenge for the community, and we are planning also to launch another challenge for this year as well. So these are the things that we are working in the area. Of course, we're a lot of people. We are not only the two of us.
What are you shared a bunch of internal processes and otherwise as well. What are the products that we can check out that are live right now by Mercado?
Maybe I can chip in. We have a marketplace which is close to Amazon's called mercadolibre.com or .com.ar in Argentina, .com.br in Brazil, Mexico.com.mx. So, sorry, I'm saying .com, it's .com, right? Punto is dot in Argentina. I'm just so used to saying the webpage. Then we have we also have an app for that, and then obviously the payments app, which is called the Mercado Pago. Mercado means market and Libre means free. So it's like a free market for interchange of goods. And then Mercado Pago means the market pay. So it's the payments. So those are the two main products that Mercado Libre sells. And just to add to Pepe's raconto and his summary, like I think the main objective is obviously delivering machine learning solutions, but not focusing on our group, right? Not focusing on one business unit, but trying to actually make, in some way, it makes remind me of Fast.ai, because we're trying to build skills so that people can be autonomous within the company. So that means knowing the other things that Pepe, like the intertwining thread is knowing when to apply machine learning. We can help with the MVP, and then transferring that MVP to an actual team that can take it and that can apply incremental improvement to that MVP. So in all of those parts, we are trying to chip in and make that pipeline work almost flawlessly. So you can, find an opportunity, make an MVP, assign it to a team, and everything works. So every machine learning tool that is generalizable to many projects, we are super interested in, right? So for example, this representation library he was talking about is super generalizable. So the general idea of our area is trying to make machine learning easy in the company. And in that sense, I feel close to the philosophy of Fast.ai, because Fast.ai in some ways also like a great enabler, right? So we shine when we are not noticed, right? Because that means that our job was smooth, that there's no problems. So yeah, that's a very, very complete summary that Pepe gave.
Okay. I also want to ask you, it might have been a while since you made the transition, but for people who are looking to make a transition into the field, coming from literally any background, let's say they've done the course, what are your suggestions to them who've done a few courses, maybe have built a bunch of projects? How should they look forward to making a break into the field?
It's
okay.
The
first thing is
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, please.
No. I don't have anything clear. Go.
Please go ahead.
Okay. The first thing is to jump in, to not to be afraid. I think we are on a field that is very demanded, and the perspectives are really good. So you are not jumping from a cliff. You are going into a sector or a technology that is really demanded and with really good perspective for the coming years. So your chances of success are a lot. And that's a point that is an advantage for everyone getting into the field. If you are getting to a different field, something strange that, I don't know, there's no demand for that or something, maybe it's different. You can do it as well, but in this field it's much easier to take the decision because it's very demanding.
Yes.
do, do you have any project suggestions? How should one find the project? So this is always a struggle for people who are learning. Uh, Something seems too easy, everything else seems too much out of reach. Uh, how should they find the project ideas? How should they build upon their skills?
Hmm.
That's a very good question. I think it is a key question in the journey. Um, I think there are a few ways in which, I mean, you can improve your probabilities of finding a good project to work on. I don't know if there's a fail-proof method, but I think relating to to good people, to people that think similarly or in some complementary way as you and have the same interests, and you can develop a relationship, builds ideas in some strange way. You start to find yourself talking about, this would be cool or something, and then you can, out of that, a project collaboration can come. I think the best things I've done have always been helped with and together with other people. And I remember the first project I did, actually, I never talked about it because it was not much of a thing, but I implemented a paper called deep steganography, which encodes passwords or ID no, it encodes images within another image with deep learning. So if you have the decoder, you can extract the real image from another image. So it's like a secret thing. It was cool in the time. I didn't have any opportunity cost because I was working, and I collaborated with a guy who I met online that lived in New York, and I never met him. I never talked to him again. I just collaborated for that project. So I think one way is trying to find people that are doing cool things and trying to join them. The best place for that is the forums, obviously. So we're very present in the forums. Try to find key things that Jeremy says in the lesson that this would be interesting if it was done, and then you in the forums find someone that is willing to do it, so you join him. Like whatever you can do that is a spin-off from Fast.ai, I think is a great way to start. And if you can, another suggestion I would give is try to do something other people will value. Don't do things just because of the curiosity of it, although that's not a problem. But I think you get plus points for doing something that gives back to the community. That's my regard.
Jose, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think also to come up with new ideas for projects, you can look in your local community how you can add value, because especially if you are not in, let's say, USA or Europe, but the specific problem of your country, and see how you can create value or to help in some way to solve that problem would be some area of opportunity, because not the entire world are aware of that problem. And the other idea is to partner with people from different fields, from other areas of a studio, so you can mix the knowledge, you can bring machine learning or deep learning to that fields that maybe nobody is applying the technology to that field.
That's amazing advice. And this is usually the last question that I end on, but I also have two interesting questions for you. Francisco, I know you had met Andre Karpathy, Stephen Merity, and Sumit, I think, at the PyTorch Dev conference. Do you have any interesting takeaways from that? It must have been a very short meeting, but do you have any interesting memories from there?
In a general sense, it was very, very, very interesting to see the PyTorch community getting together and showing, all the papers, all the research. I am a big fan of PyTorch, and it was like a fan going to meet the Lord of the Rings characters, like going to Disney for me. I was not a big developer, and I am not now, but it was very, very gratifying. I did meet, like, it was crazy because I was walking around the DevCon, and in one table was Stephen Merity drinking coffee, and and you crossed Andre Karpathy on the other table, and they were just like there. You could go and talk to them. So I have some anecdotes. I don't have any takeaways, to be honest. I did ask one question to Undercarpathy, and at half of his answer, I was asking basically what skill is more looked for in the work, in the market. Like, is it either Kaggle proficiency or open source contributions? Like, what would you rather have as a candidate, right, for Tesla? I didn't think I would be the candidate, but I was interested in, how the market works. So he said that definitely open source is more important, because Kaggle has the problems Kaggle faces are different than the ones Tesla face. Like, Tesla has lots of data, always the same kind of problem with small differences. But at halfway of the talk, he said, "Give me a second," and he just raised his phone. It was crazy, and he, like, after like half a minute that he was like using his phone, he said, "Sorry, I just missed a meeting with Elon. You can continue." And I was like, okay, like that was the point in the movie in which you faint, like, okay, I'm done. So yeah, that's a fun anecdote, and that's all I have to say about that. I didn't want to take much time from them, because I know that they are very short on time and they are very busy people. So yeah.
And I think both of you had met these people, the next ones that I'm going to mention. But I saw the photos on Jose's Twitter handle. You met Jeff Teen, Oriol Vinales, and Nando. Any interesting memories from there? I think you met them at the Kupu AI conference.
Yeah, last year we assisted with Francisco to Kipu. That it was an AI event, the most important AI event in Latin America. And those amazing guys were there. Yeah, the picture was just by chance. The day before I exchanged some word with Nando, and the next day I was coming back home, and in the airport at the custom booth I met Nando, and he said, "Let's take a picture." "Oh, let's wait, I will call the other guys. Chef, Oriol, please come." And they came, and it was like the cherry to the cake to complete a perfect week. It was an amazing week in that event, the first time happening in Latin America, and this happening was really magical. It's just a picture, but for us that we are in the field are like very exciting. So I was very lucky to meet them there.
That's great to know the story. On that note, I'd like to end. But before we end, if you could mention all of the platforms where anyone from the audience can connect with you, if they like.
Sanyam, can I add one thing about the Kipu conference? I didn't have much contact with Oriol, well, with Nando and Jeff, but I did. I was very, very interested in Oriol's work on AlphaStar. Or is it AlphaStar? I don't remember the name of the algorithm which won StarCraft. And I talked to him a little bit after the talk, because I had some questions. If anyone is interested, like in just plain old deep learning engineering, or plain new deep learning engineering, that's a fantastic piece of engineering. Like, what they did for AlphaStar is very, very interesting on the mechanism and how they found a way to eliminate weak spots on that algorithm. I remember that, and I had to say it because it was like out of this world.
Totally. I have to agree. Even though I haven't played, I just have a good overview, but I agree with you. Before I end, what would be the best platforms for the audience to connect with both of you?
Twitter, right, Pepe?
Yeah, Twitter.
Okay, yeah. I'll have both of your Twitter profiles linked. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing all about your journey and these advices, and for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you, Sanyam. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to give it a review, or feel free to shoot me a message. You can find all of the social media links in the description. If you like the show, Please subscribe and tune in each week to Chai Time Data Science.